Hello everyone, my name is Chuck Girbovan. I'm the exhibit chief here at the National Museum of the Marine Corps. Today we'd like to show you our new gallery, Gallery 5 as we call it on the inside. It's the extension of our Legacy Walk. If you come with me, I'd like to invite you in and show you what we've done. The museum as it exists now talks a lot about Marine warfighting, and certainly that's the main function of the Marines and the Marine Corps. But you might not realize there are a lot of other humanitarian and helpful things that the Marines do. This first section of our new gallery is called No Better Friend. It's named after the famous quote from General Mattis that Marines are no better friend, no worse enemy. In this area, we highlight some of the assistance that the Marines give to local governments and local populations. In this area, we talk about advise and assist, where Marines help train other warfighting units around the world in civil defense and peacekeeping. We also talk about embassy duty, the Marine Security Guard program. You might not realize this, but around the world, all the U.S. embassies are guarded by Marines. If you see an embassy, there's a Marine guarding that embassy. They're there to keep the embassy staff safe and protect the U.S. interests in that region. We also talk about Marine relief efforts. If you see on the news natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, you see a lot of relief efforts happening. The Marines are there helping the local authorities rebuild and recover personnel. Moving on beyond Better Friend, we have a tease of what is really one of our big galleries coming soon. If you've been to our museum, we stop our timeline at the end of the Vietnam War. That's our last historical gallery, as we call them. We're not going to stop there. We've actually have more gallery space coming. This entrance here is the entrance to our next gallery. We call it Forward Deployed. So this is a time post-Vietnam where the Marines engaged in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Beirut, Grenada. And if you've met any Marine who've been in service at that period, there was a lot of time spent out on ships. And we're going to talk about those worldwide deployments and show you a little peek at what Marines were living like when they were on board ship. Spoiler alert, it wasn't great. Beyond that area, we have our 9/11 exhibit. You know, we were very fortunate many years ago to be offered some artifacts from the 9/11 sites, specifically a piece of rubble from the Pentagon and an I-beam from the World Trade Center. We had this on exhibit for about a year, and we had planned to take it off exhibit, but the response from you, the general public, was so incredible, we felt that we just can't take this exhibit away. So these pieces remained on exhibit in our temporary gallery space for a number of years before we were able to get this space built. Now that this is complete, those two artifacts are on permanent exhibit here in the 9/11 section. In this area, we talk about the three areas specifically hit by the terrorists: the Pentagon, the Shanksville, Pennsylvania site, and of course the World Trade Center. Now you might not realize this, but we do have some Marine ties to these events, and I invite you to come out the gallery and see exactly what those ties are. Continuing on the space, we pick up with the Afghanistan and Iraq gallery. Now this time period is post 9/11 to present day. Here at the museum, it's an unusual topic for us because we have been used to designing galleries that are purely Marine Corps history. Well, this is Marine Corps history and current events. So it was very tricky for us to design a gallery that told the Iraq-Afghanistan story, one that has not yet finished. So when you come to the museum, you'll have opportunities to look over into the new gallery spaces, and you'll see that we're still under construction in these areas. So what you're seeing is the result of our initial planning. We have our large macro artifacts, as we call them. Our F-18 is installed. We've got our M60 tank in. We've got a Humvee in. We've got a howitzer in place. We've got a lot of the large elements in place around which we're going to build the final exhibits. So this area is going to be closed off to you, the visitor, but there are vantage points where you can look in and see our progress. Of course, one of the questions is, well, when is this going to get done? And we've gotten a lot of questions about that. We've got a lot of people. We know you're looking at what we're doing, curious about when we're going to get this done. We appreciate your interest and we appreciate your patience. As it's a little bit hard moving forward in the government at a fast pace, but I can tell you that we are moving forward with construction in these areas. Toward the end of this year or the beginning of next year, we will start construction on those new galleries. So if you keep tabs on our website, we'll have construction updates. And once we get started, we'll be happy to show you behind the scenes of how we're moving forward with those galleries. When you leave this gallery, across the hall is our area we call Never Forget. We do want to show the human cost of war, and this small area off the beaten path is a small, quiet, contemplative space where we can honor those fallen Marines. Continuing through the hallway, we come up on an area that is a little unusual for military museums. This is our Marine Families Gallery space. A lot of museums don't talk about how the warfighters are supported at home. We have a lot of different domestic backgrounds. Husbands are Marines, wives are Marines, grandparents, kids are affected by Marines and their deployments and their day-to-day duties. In this space, we're talking about what life is like for those dependents. For a lot of people who hear on the news about Marines deploying, you might assume that Marines go away on a deployment, turn around and come back, and that's the end of it. Well, that's far from the case. Marines, prior to deploying, have a long period of training. They deploy, they come back, have to readjust to being back stateside, and then start training for the next deployment. It's what we refer to as the deployment cycle, and this gallery talks about that. In this space, you see we have a number of interactive terminals where we've interviewed relatives, spouses of Marines on deployment to hear their stories, hear their perspectives, and get their story of what life is like for them supporting their deployed Marine. Some of the stories are informational, some are humorous, some are rather heart-wrenching, but we really felt that this is all important for you, the visitor, to understand what it's like to be in a Marine family. Moving past some Marine families, here we've got a blank hallway. Even though we're finishing parts of the museum, to a certain extent, a museum is never finished. There are a lot more ideas that we want to add to the museum. There are a lot of ideas that we haven't thought of yet. And blank space is not our enemy. So the end of this gallery, we've left blank for now to give us some time to come up with some new ideas, incorporate new technologies into our exhibits on the Marine Corps story. So I guarantee you in a few more years down the road, we'll be having this walk one more time, talking about what's going to be in places like this. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you like what you saw and come back again and we'll do more updates.